Don't let your mind become a swamp. I want to tell you about a woman who changed the way I think about survival. Her name is Markia Saunders, and she's not just a survivor, she's a revolutionary. Markia has turned unimaginable trauma into a testimony that's shifting how Black women everywhere understand resilience, mental health, and the dangerous cost of letting pain sit still. She's a force, a healer, a truth teller. And she recently sat down with me and dropped a line so powerful it's been rattling around in my head ever since. She said, if you let your mind become stagnant in its waters, then it'll become contaminated. Let that sit for a second. Stagnant waters breed disease. Stagnant minds breed contamination. And most of us are walking around with minds that haven't been refreshed in years, maybe decades. We're carrying thoughts from childhood, beliefs handed down like heirlooms, fears we inherited from people who were too afraid to let them go themselves. And we wonder why we feel stuck, why we can't move forward, why every single day feels like we're wading through something thick and heavy. It's because we've let our mental waters go still. Now, I know what you're thinking. Life is exhausting, especially if you're a Black woman who's been taught that survival is the baseline. We've been grinding so hard so long that we forgot we're allowed to pause, reflect, and refresh. We've been so busy being strong that we forgot strong doesn't mean stagnant. Strong means flowing, strong means evolving, strong means refusing to let yesterday's pain poison today's peace. And here's the thing: contamination doesn't announce itself, it doesn't knock on your door and say, hey, I'm here to ruin your life. It creeps in quietly like mold in a damp corner. One day you're fine, and the next you're suffocating under the weight of thoughts you didn't even know you were still carrying. So, how do we avoid this? How do we keep our minds flowing? Markia shared three truths with me, and I'm going to break them down because they're not just ideas, they're lifelines. First, keep your mind in motion daily. Stagnation invites doubt, fear, and old traumas to fester. You have to commit to fresh thoughts to stay empowered. That means reading something new, listening to something that challenges you, journaling, praying, meditating, talking to someone who sees the world differently than you do. It means refusing to let your mind replay the same old stories on a loop. Because when you do that, you're not thinking anymore, you're rotting. Second, turn personal testimony into fuel. Your pain, whether it's grief that knocked on your door or trauma that tried to end you, isn't the end of your story. It's the catalyst for breakthroughs when you refuse to let it stagnate. Markia knows this intimately. She prayed for a family after seeing a homicide on the news, only to learn 20 minutes later it was her brother. She survived a neighbor trying to kill her at 8 years old, stuffed in a black trash bag to float down the river because the woman's mother told her to. That kind of trauma could drown anyone. But Markia didn't let it. She turned that stagnant pain into a flowing testimony of survival. And that's the choice we all have. We can let our pain pool and poison us, or we can let it flow and fuel us. Third, surround yourself with flowing energy. Isolate from toxic stillness. Seek communities and habits that keep your mental waters vibrant because contamination spreads if you don't. You cannot afford to be around people who are stuck, who complain but never change, who drain you but never pour back. You need people who are moving, growing, healing, people who remind you that stagnation is not your destiny. Now, I want to share three stories of Black women who embody this truth. Women who refused to let their minds become swamps, women who kept their waters flowing even when the world tried to drown them. Let's start with Oprah Winfrey. Born in 1954 to a teenage single mother in rural Mississippi, Oprah grew up in the Jim Crow South. She endured extreme poverty, childhood sexual abuse, and beatings. She was molested by family members and ran away at 14. Her mind could have easily become contaminated with self doubt, shame, and trauma. The kind of trauma that sits in your chest and makes it hard to breathe. The kind that convinces you you're not worthy of love, success, or peace. But Oprah refused to let those thoughts take root. She kept her mind in motion through daily journaling, voracious reading, and seeking mentors who challenged her to think bigger. She channeled her pain into bold career risks, like launching her talk show when everyone told her she wasn't the right fit. And she transformed into a billionaire visionary who revolutionized media for Black voices. Oprah learned that stagnant minds breed victimhood, but flowing ones birth empires. She gave over $400 million to education and inspired millions to declutter their mental stagnation for societal uplift. Her story proves that when you refuse to let trauma stagnate, you can turn it into a testimony that changes the world. Then there's Serena Williams. Raised in gang ridden Compton by her coach father Richard, Serena faced death threats and racial bias from age 8. She navigated a white dominated tennis world that body shamed her, profiled her, and doubted her at every turn. She survived life threatening pregnancies and postpartum depression that could have easily drowned her in isolation and fear. Her mental waters could have stagnated with self doubt, but Serena kept her mindset flowing through therapy, visualization rituals, and community accountability. After her 2017 pulmonary embolism, when she nearly died giving birth, she recommitted to daily affirmations against contamination. She refused to let that trauma define her. She won 23 Grand Slams and built a $240 million empire in fashion and venture capital. She advocated for Black maternal health after nearly dying during childbirth, turning her pain into a platform that's saving lives. Serena proved that stagnant recovery breeds defeat, but mental flow reclaims dominance. She shattered stereotypes and boosted Black girls in sports and business by modeling mental resilience over stagnation. And finally, Michelle Obama. She grew up in a cramped apartment on Chicago's South Side. She excelled at Princeton and Harvard despite doubt from people who didn't think she belonged. She faced racial barriers in elite law firms, infertility grief that broke her heart, and White House scrutiny that stagnated her mind with imposter syndrome and suppressed anger. The kind of anger that sits in your throat and makes you question if you're allowed to take up space. But Michelle refused to let those thoughts contaminate her. She wrote Becoming, went to therapy, and embraced the mantra let folks show you who they are. She purged contaminated thoughts by embracing public vulnerability to restart her mental flow. She emerged as a global icon, affirming that stagnant silence contaminates the soul, but flowing truth liberates. She penned a number one bestseller that sold over 10 million copies, launched Higher Ground Productions, and championed Reach Higher for over 25 million students. Michelle empowered Black women worldwide to reject mental stagnation, influencing policy and culture toward equity. These women, Oprah, Serena, Michelle, they all faced trauma that could have drowned them, but they kept their minds flowing. They refused contamination and they turned their pain into power. But here's the uncomfortable truth. Most of us aren't doing that. Most of us are sitting in our pain like it's a bathtub we forgot to drain. We're soaking in it. We're letting it seep into our skin. And we're wondering why we can't seem to get clean. I'm not saying this to shame you. I'm saying this because I've been there. I've sat in that bathtub. I've let my mind replay the same traumatic scenes over and over until they felt more real than my present. I've carried beliefs about myself that were never mine to begin with. And I've watched those beliefs contaminate my relationships, my work, my sense of self. But here's what I've learned. Your mind is either flowing or festering. There's no in between. And if you're not actively keeping it fresh, you're actively letting it rot. So here's my challenge to you. This week, identify one stagnant thought. Maybe it's old grief over a lost loved one. Maybe it's a childhood scare that still haunts you. Maybe it's a belief about yourself that you've been carrying for decades, and flush it, replace it with a new habit. 10 minutes of journaling, a walk outside, a call to a growth minded friend. Act now, or watch contamination spread. Because the truth is, we don't have time to waste. We don't have time to sit in stagnant waters while the world moves forward without us. We don't have time to let contamination steal our joy, our peace, our purpose. Markia Saunders taught me that, and I'm passing it on to you. I want you to feel something right now. I want you to feel that heart pounding urgency to move, to stir your mental waters, to refuse stagnation. And then I want you to feel that uncontainable hope, that empowered peace, knowing your mind can heal, knowing you don't have to carry contaminated thoughts anymore, knowing you can flow into abundance. This is your moment. This is your sacred pause, your deep exhale from the survival script, your quiet but powerful return to softness, rest, self trust, and radical joy. You don't have to hustle your way into healing. You just have to keep moving, keep flowing, keep flushing out the old so the new can come in. Don't let your mind become a swamp. Keep it flowing pure, keep it fresh, keep it free. Because stagnant minds breed contamination. But flowing minds, they birth empires, they heal communities, they change the world. So I'm asking you right now, in this moment, to make a choice. Are you going to let your mind sit still and rot? Or are you going to commit to keeping it in motion, keeping it fresh, keeping it alive? The choice is yours. But I'll tell you this: the world needs your flowing mind. Your family needs your flowing mind. You need your flowing mind. So let's commit together to refusing stagnation, to flushing out contamination, to keeping our mental waters pure, vibrant, and life giving. Because when we do that, we don't just survive, we thrive, we rise, we become the empires we were always meant to be.